Okay, so this is a Vidal CNC 3D guitar lab. We're actually going to try to run this after Thanksgiving. So open that up. These are the Vidal control files and the post file. Okay, that we're going to need in a little bit. There's the tool chart, so make sure you use the tools from that one. Okay, and this is basically to simulate a mold, which it's actually a true mold that you could pour wax or plastic into. And the reason I did this is it'd be very similar to what you should be doing for your final project. Okay, I did try to draw this on multiple softwares, and the only one that it would work on was Inventor. So sometimes it's better to use other softwares. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started in Inventor. I'm going to split screen here. Try to. I had Inventor opened up, but I guess I don't. Well, I know I have it open up. Why is it not showing up down here? Let's see here. Tab. There it is. All right, so I've got both these opened up. So the idea of this is it's got all these cross sections at these locations, 0.6 over 0.83 and so on, all the way to this last sketch, which is at 2.3, okay? And the last sketch is on the face, this little arch-looking thing with a straight line. And that's you're gonna loft from, well, you use this circle to extrude out the end of it, okay? And then we use the half circle right here that's left over when it's done. Extrude cut it out the end. You'll use a half circle with all these other sketches along the section, and including this last one, to cut out the guitar shape. Okay, they're a little bit hard to draw, so okay, so let's draw this up, guys. First thing we need to do is create that block. Okay, so the block is 3 by 1.5 rectangle, and then we're going to shoot it 1 inch deep. So start 2D sketch, XY plane. Okay, and let's do a 2-point center rectangle like I typically use, right? 2-point center. And let's make it 3 long, 1.5 inches tall. Okay, so 3 long, tab 1.5 tall. Okay, that's fully constrained. I start at the origin, of course. I'm gonna right click, finish 2D sketch, right click, extrude, and switch directions. I want it going down. Okay, I want my origin to be in the right place. I want it going down. Okay, so I didn't want to start at the center because it says up here it's supposed to be in the top left. Okay, so we can't use our 2-point center rectangle as a problem. All right, so what we want to use is just regular old rectangle. Okay, a two-point rectangle, and go from the top left of the rectangle down to the right, and that'll put our origin in the top left like it's asking us to do. Okay, so then again 3 tab 1.5. Okay, and now we can do finish 2D sketch, right click, extrude, and make sure it's going in the opposite direction down, okay, like that, right? So that way it keeps our origin up in this corner. That way when we bring it into MasterCAM, it'll be in the right place to begin with. Okay, and then just hit OK, all right? Okay, so now we need, at all these positions, we need to create a plane to draw on, okay? A through G, okay? So 6, 8, 3, 1.6, and so on from the front plane. So make sure you're picking on the same plane every time. Don't pick on any new ones. It's always from this distance right here on the front, okay? So let's create all those planes. So in the work features, drop the plane, drop down, and pick offset from plane, and pick that left face there, okay? And we're going to type in, it's going the wrong direction, so I'm going to type in -0.6, okay? The arrow's going in the direction there. Now it's going right, it looks right, so that looks good. I'm going to hit enter to repeat, okay? And I'm just going to pick that same face again. I'm not even moving my mouse. And it's going the wrong direction again, so the next one on B was -0.83, okay? Looks good. Hit enter again. Pick that plane. Next one was -1.06. Okay, make sure you type the right numbers in. Don't mess them up, because you want to mess it up, it's hard to replace. And then I'm going to type for the next one, I'm going to type in -0.5 1.3. And then a negative 1.625. And then a negative 1.85. And negative 2.075 is the last one. Oops, that should have been a negative, so I got to double click on that one to change it and put a negative in front of it. There we go. All right, so now we've got all our planes made. Sure they're right. Okay, so we stopped at G because this 2.3 one's on the face. All right, so now we're going to start doing all these cuts. Okay. All right, so you need to go down to section views here. If as long as you start from the first one and you don't skip any, you should end up on the last one, right? So, I'm going to zoom in here, pick on this first plane, right-click, new sketch. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to hit F7 to split this thing. Okay. Well, I can't hit F7 because my keyboard, so I'm going to right-click and pick Slice Graphics. Okay, it does the same thing as F7. All right, and then right here on the top of this, basically, I'm going to put in the center, I'm going to pick a circle. I'm going to make sure I snap to the center of this thing. Make sure it's green. There, it finally got it. All right, there it is. Okay, and it says it's 0.4. Okay, diameter, so 0.4. Okay, so that one's done. That sketch is finished. It's fully constrained. So finish that sketch. Okay, that should begin on the first plane. Then we're going to the second one, which is BB. Okay. Okay, so we're going to right-click on that second one and do new sketch. Okay, and I'm going to slice graphics again so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm right-clicking on it, slicing graphics, or hitting F7. So on these, I'm going to use it. What I'm going to do is a little trick here. Okay, so I've done this enough times to figure out there was an easy way and a hard way. I'm going to use a 2-point rectangle, and then I'm going to draw it double the height. Okay, everybody understand that? So it's going to be 0.4 instead of 0.2 tall. And then I'm going to draw my. Then I'm going to fillet it, okay, and then I'm going to draw a line across it. Now be very careful when you draw this line across here, okay, and the reason I'll go over this again, because if you pick on the top of this arc, okay, instead of at the middle of that rectangle, you know, or the flat face of that thing, it won't come out right. It'll come out wrong. I've seen multiple students do that, okay. And the arcs are always 1.88. They're not any of these other dimensions. It's typical, so it's 1.88 is the radius on all these fillets, okay. All right, so now we're going to pick a 2-point center rectangle, and same place we did that circle, find that midpoint, okay? And type in double the height, so 0.4, tab, 1 is the height, okay? All right, so we've got that done. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fillet this thing next, okay? So because I want to fillet it first, otherwise my line might jump over since it's trying to go to the midpoint, okay? So I'm going to fillet it next. Next step is fillet, and the fillet is 3/16 or 1.188, whatever, 0.188, okay? And then the bottom that's in the part is going to get filleted, okay? Just like that, all right? Now I'm going to draw a line down the face of that. Now you could project it, but it probably wouldn't find it. In fact, I know it won't on this one because it's picky. Sometimes projections work, but if projected, it's going to be the whole line, so it doesn't like it. Instead, it likes the closed loops, you know. So pick line here, okay? Now, very carefully, it doesn't snap. It wants to snap to this arc. You don't want that. You want right here where it's at the top of the object, right? So I'm picking right there. I'm gonna scroll down and pick the same place on the bottom. And don't miss it. If you miss it, your lofting won't work later. Okay, it should snap to that. You can't. Sometimes you can't see it, but mine is showing up, so that's good. All right. Now, one thing you could do that I'm not going to do because it's an added step is I could pick this line and turn that into a construction line, just so that it's only got one loop down here. But it did work without doing that, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, and I'll show you how to make that work later. But that is one thing, possibility is you could do that. All right, so this sketch is finished. So finish 2D sketch. Now all the other sketches are done the same way, double the height and the same length. So I'm gonna turn the video off till I get them all done. Okay. All right, I'm putting this in the video just so you don't make any mistakes. So I am going to Make sure you always fillet it before you draw that center line, because otherwise the center line will jump around on you, because the midpoint is a little longer. The midpoint would be up here now on that line. So that's why I'm always filleting first before I draw that line. And again, be very careful when you draw that line that you're actually on the right spot and not on the end of that arc. It wants to jump over the end of that arc. Okay, let's go ahead and draw the next one, and then we'll do all of our extrusions and everything else at once. Okay, so the last one is this this little arc looking thing here. Okay, so it's got a radius of 717 and it's 1.18. So just anywhere on this face, right click and new sketch. Okay, and then try to draw roughly the right place and location, and we'll dimension it here in a minute. So I'm gonna pick a line, I guess, first, and I'm gonna towards the top. It's most of the way up there. I'm going to start a line, go straight down, make sure I'm straight, and it's 1.18, okay? Right? And then I'm going to use the constraint, try to get that drawn. Then I'm going to constrain this thing horizontally to another center point on one of those other lines. So I'm going to pick the horizontal constraint and grab the midpoint of that line I just drew and stick it on the midpoint of one of these other ones, where it doesn't want to go. So I'm going to one of these faces. There, I did find a face, so I'm going to face over here, okay? So just pick a midpoint of like the left or right face, okay? Now it's centered perfectly, okay? And it's got the height. So the only thing that's missing now is this 2.3 dimension, and now it'll be fully constrained. So I'm gonna add a dimension of 2.3 from the very, very front of this thing, okay? Okay, now it's fully constrained. Okay, now I can pretty easily make that arc. Okay, so I think the 3-point arc will give you so you got your first point, your last point, and then your third one. When you pick your third point, you can actually type in the radius of 0.717, okay? So we want the 3rd-point arc here. So I'm picking my first point, my last point, and now I'm going to do the radius after I put it about the right location. Okay, so I just move my mouse over to about the right location, and I type in 0.717. Okay, now I've got that one fully constrained, okay? Okay, so let's finish that sketch now. Okay, so you have to put your initials in the corner so I know you did this, right? So we're going to do the same thing on that same face, right-click, new sketch, okay? And so you can extrude text just like you do anything else. So go to the text box here, pick a spot, towards the bottom right or something in there, okay? And I'm going to change the height so it's a little bit bigger to 0.24. Didn't really say to do that, so it's kind of up to you on that. And I'm going to change, I don't like the home, it's ugly. So I'm going to go to Times New Roman. You can't go to real fancy fonts because it doesn't like to extrude the real crazy ones sometimes. But I switched to Times New Roman. It looks a little bit better. And I'm going to type in LK. Just going to put small this time just for something different. Okay. And then after you get it in there, you can kind of hit escape and you can drag it, touch the actual text and drag it around so it's on your block. So like that, okay. All right, then just finish that sketch. I think we've got everything in here now to finish this thing up extrusion. Let's do the extrusions first, okay? So I'm gonna right-click and pick extrude, okay? Might as well do my initials first. It's the last thing I did there. Make sure to switch it over to cut, and I don't know, go about 0.1 deep. Didn't really say on that either, so that's fine. 0.1 deep, okay? And we're not actually going to machine this. You could theoretically machine it, but you'd probably use more of a stick figure font like Simplex, so you can follow the lines in McMaster or in MasterCAM. Okay. All right, now let's extrude the circle straight out. So I'm going to right-click and pick extrude, touch that circle, okay, and switch it over to cut, and then switch it the other direction so it actually goes towards the front of the part. And there should be one, instead of distance up there, switch it over to all, okay, and it'll cut all the way through that way. All right, so we've got that one done. Now we're ready to do the fun part, the loft, okay, after we did all that work. All right, now I really struggled to get SolidWorks and MasterCAM would not loft this, but lo and behold, Inventor does, but it didn't like it either. So, okay, so let's go to loft, okay? And so what you want to do when you pick the lofts, if you have multiple areas inside one sketch like we do here, see there's 2 open areas in it, so what you'll do is you'll pick the sketch, and then you'll pick the area that you want to loft, which is the bottom half. and then I'll go over and have to click add. Okay, so it's a little more tricky when you've got two areas in there. If we just had one area, you could go boom, 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 picking them and they'd go through, but it's not quite that easy since it's a fairly complex bunch of sketches here. Okay, so pick the very first one we drew, that BB one, okay, and then pick the bottom half of it. Make sure your mouse is inside the bottom half of that, okay, and you can see it select. Now it won't select the next one until you go over here and pick click to add. Okay, so I pick that, and now I keep doing that until I get all the way through, including that last one, that 2.3. So I'm going to pick the second sketch, the bottom half, click to add, third sketch, and it should be happening as you're going, bottom half, click to add. Keep doing that till you get all the way through there. And if it doesn't work, you probably drew something wrong, because it should be working. Unless you're using a newer version, it's possible that the newer versions don't work. But just take your time and be careful. Don't try to get click happy. Some of you guys click a lot faster than me, but okay, so it should work now. Now, one thing I forgot. Okay, so now I forgot to tell you to pick the first one. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can just hit cancel, or you can go ahead and pick the first. Click to add, and pick this little sketch right here. You see that, Broden? So we got to pick this one too, and I'm gonna have to move it to the top because I forgot to do it first. Okay, so I'm gonna pick that one. All right. Now I was trying to go all the way back there, so that on those edges, I need to drag the edges all the way up here to the very top. It might not let me do it. Just doing it slowly. Might have been easier just to do it again, but okay. So now it's going the right direction. So I should have picked that little edge bottom circle thing first, but I didn't. So I drug it all the way up to the top. It's not a nice thing to know how to do anyway. Now it's making a solid, so we've got to switch it to cut. We've got to pick the merge tangent faces so it's smoother. Okay, make sure you have that selected, and then take a look at it and make sure it actually looks like it's doing its right, what it's supposed to. Okay, the worst problem is back here. A lot of times that doesn't work. Okay, so if it all works, then you did it right, okay? It should look like a guitar face when you're finished, of course. Okay, and hit OK. All right, the last step in this thing is we've got to fill it right here. I wanted as big a filler as I could so it looks smooth, but it wouldn't let me go very far, so we're just doing the best we can here. So go to fill it, okay, and change the size to 0.09. That's the biggest it'll actually work, okay? And then fill it where these two surfaces meet. So there's like 3 little picks there, okay? And it doesn't give you a perfectly smooth, as you can see. All right, so it should look like that. Apply. Okay. All right, so this part is done. So you want to save it. So do File, Save, and make sure you save it on your U drive so you can use it. I'm gonna call mine Guitar 3. Okay. All right, so that part's done. So, all right, so let's go ahead and bring it into. So notice some things we did. Remember, we put the 0 in the right place when we started drawing, so we don't have to move all that stuff around. And you could move it around real easy and with the translate button, but we don't have to do all that because we did it right from the beginning. Okay. All right, so now I am going to open this part up in MasterCAM. Okay, so now before we get any farther on this, we need to do a couple things here. Finish that whole part. So we got to generate a CNC program so that before we can bring the part in at this point. It'd probably be a good idea to do that. And then after that, we're going to basically change our files so they're using the right files, and it will set up stock. Okay, so and all the instructions for that are right here. Let's go ahead and do it. Okay, so we got to make sure we turn edges on when we open file. Go File, Open, Computer, go find your guitar, U drive, date modified. Okay, you got to switch file type over to Inventor. I kind of forgot. Okay, so switch file type over to Inventor files. Pick it. I'm going to use the third one there. I've done this a little bit before. Make sure you hit the options button. It won't work if you don't hit the options button. So reopen it if you didn't. All right, and then you got to go over here and select edge curves. Okay, that way we can use our get our boundary set up correctly when we are cutting everything. So edge curves that bring in the lines, which is really a nice little option on there. Hit open. Okay, now you can see the nice edge curves on it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the isometric view right now. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, so let's get our files done right first before we go on any farther. So it says right here where they got to be. So they've got to be, I'll see if I can memorize it. See, students, documents, shared, CNC machines. That's where the first two go in, and the post goes into similar, except instead of CNC machines, it goes into mill posts. So we'll do it together here. So mine might already be in there, but I'll already save it anyway. So go to back to the Fidal lab, okay, and right click on the M or the control file, okay, and save link as, okay, and then go to your C drive, and then under students, and under documents, and under shared MCAM, and under CNC machines, that's where you save it, okay. So C, students, documents, shared MCAM, CNC machines, okay. Everybody see that? And save. And now do the same thing for the MMD file. Yeah, it's another type of control file. So I'm gonna right click on that, save link as. Should bring you right to that place next time. Okay, save it there. Okay. Now the post goes a little bit different. So I'm gonna right click on the post, and I don't think it works anyway. I think you still have to point it out to it. But say it when you're running the G code later on at the very end of the program. Save link as, and then instead of going to CNC machines, it goes to shared MCAM, mill, and then post. Okay, but I think there's an older version of the same thing already there. Okay, let's replace it. Save. Okay, yep, replace it. Okay. All right, so we've got all those. Okay, I'm trying not to forget anything. So make sure we use the Fidal tool. So we're going to use the 1/4 inch tool. So I'm just going to show you this right now. You don't have to download it. Okay. So it's basically, we're going to use a 1/4 inch ball mill. So it's T7 and the offset's H7. So we're going to use 7 for both the tool number and the offset number, okay? The H just means tool offset and T means tool. So make sure when we're picking our tools, we renumber those to 7, whatever MasterCAM gives us, okay? And make sure we're using a 1/4 inch regular ball mill, okay? I think that's it for that. Let's go back to the instructions here. All right, so the next thing I think we need to do is we're going to go ahead and pick our machine. So we go over it. Well, let's do all our typical stuff we always do. So let's go to File, Configuration, Screen, Grid Settings, change it to 1. Okay. And then go to our View Settings and change it to Pan instead of Rotate. Hit the check mark there. Hit yes on that. And then we got to turn our grid on, remember? So we go to View, Grid, and Show Grid. Okay. Now you can see the grid's up in the top left, right where we drew it. So we don't have to move anything, which is a pretty sweet deal. Okay. So we've got that all done. Now we need to set up our machine. So we go to Machine, okay, and Mill, and Manage List. Okay. Remember this thing, we have to switch it over. So we pick the Fidal and hit Add. Now it'll be available to pick from. Hit the check mark. Okay. Now we're going to have to pick that one. So drop the mill down one more time and make sure you pick the Fidal file we just loaded into there. Okay, it's now running on the Fidal, which is kind of cool. Okay, so let's do our stock setup now. So expand the properties there. This is what we do every time, right? So pick stock setup. Okay, so switch it over to size. So the Y is 1.5. Okay, just like what we drew a while ago. The X is 3. Make sure you're doing it on the part, not in the origin. The thickness is 1. Okay. Origin stays at 0. Now move the origin to the upper top, which is basically the upper top left. Okay, so make it up there. Okay, and make sure you hit the display button. Okay. All right, let's go over to the tool settings. What's that? I never want to worry about that. Always zoom in and out anyway. Okay, so we go to tool settings. Okay, and we do our typical stuff there. We're just going to leave it at 0. Pick Messiah and tool numbers, warrant of duplicates, override all these things. Okay. Starting increment at 1, which probably is ready. But it looks good. Go over to the select for the material at the bottom and go over, instead of mill current, pick mill library and switch it to 6061 and then hit the OK. All right. So we switch the material on there. Now we go to the files and make sure you actually have the right files. On the post, it will say none at this point, most likely. And we'll have to pick the post when we write the G code as the last step, okay? But it looks like we got our FDAL on the MCAD and we got our FDAL on the control, which is what we want. Okay, both of them are all right, okay? So that thing is done, so we can hit the check mark on it, all right? Okay, you should be able to see your stock now. It should look like it's in the right location. Okay, so now we've got this whole first bunch of paragraphs done. So now we're ready to write the do the first tool operation here. Okay, so we're going to do a right click when we've done this a couple times from the book. So we're going over here in the tool path area, you're going to right click and pick and hover over the mill tool path. Hover on down to the surface mill, surface rough, and then go down to pocket. Okay, so that's kind of a good old one that always works with pocket. So pick pocket. Okay, now I want you to select the cavity that you're going to cut out. So select that big one and don't miss the little ones here, okay? The little bitty one right in there, make sure you don't miss it. Okay, gotta get all, if you miss any, it won't do it right. So make sure you get all those cavities. It's gotta be continuous like that. Okay, now mine's shrunk, but you guys gotta hit the check mark. I'm just gonna hit enter because I can't see it. Okay, now over here we gotta do the containment while we're in here, okay? So this is why we had the edges shown for the containment. So pick the containment. Okay, you should have 5 surfaces right there for your drive. Pick the containment arrow and start up here at the top. We're not making any changes to it. Start up here at the top right. Okay, if you're using a new version, you might have to pick the button. It's just one edge at a time. Okay, but on the old version, it works with the change just fine. So I pick that, and I got to zoom in because there's a little one right here. Don't miss it. Okay. I'm going to pick that big one, and after you pick the big one, it goes all the way around. I don't know why they weren't connected on the chain, but they weren't. Okay, then pick that little one again, and then pick this one. You know, the big thing is don't miss this bottom half loop, because that's part of the containment. We're in 3D, so it lets you do that. So pick this bottom half loop, okay? So you should have a full contained loop now all the way around it. I mean, it's a little bit of a 3D loop, but it is fully contained, okay? Okay. All right, so hit check mark when you got your loop contained there. Okay, and hit check mark again. Okay, now we're in the tool settings. The tool settings we're mostly going to keep standard. So the first one, of course, 1/2-inch ball mill won't work. I don't even know if that's we have that tool. So let's go to the tool library. Okay. Go to the filter. And I think the left one here is end mill sphere, which is basically a ball mill. Pick on that or just double click on it. Okay, so now you only got ball mills to look on it. Okay, so I double clicked on the sphere one. Now find 1/4-inch ball mill. That's what we want. Okay, double click on that. All right. So now we got a 1/4-inch ball mill. Switch the number 1s on the offset and the number to 7 because they're both 7 on our machine. Okay. Okay, now we need to start making the changes here. So it says we're going feed rate of 12. So switch feed rate over to 12. Switch the spindle speed over to 2,000. Switch the plunge rate over to 6. And turn your coolant on for the flood. Okay. And I think that's all we changed on this one. Everybody sees something I missed. It's from the list there, but I think most of it's left alone. Okay, let's switch over to surface parameters. Okay, it's already set at 0.25 and 0.1. Make sure yours is the same for the retract and the feed plane. Okay. The stock to leave, I think I want it at 0. Yep. Okay, everything's, I don't think there's anything else to change on this. It's on tip and all that, so that's all good. All right, let's go to rough parameters. We didn't have to change anything there. Okay, so this is the maximum step down. Don't think we changed anything here either. That stays the same. Go to pocket parameters. Okay, it's already on zigzag. So the step over distance there is going by a %. So just change the distance to 0.1. I think I've got that listed here. Yeah, step over distance 0.1. Okay. Total tolerance is 0.01. Finishes on. That's good. I don't know where that total tolerance was. There it is. Total tolerance was 1. Okay, so this is done. That was pretty easy. Okay, so if you did it right, it should show up there and look like it's machined it all out. Okay, so now we're ready to do the next one. That was too easy, wasn't it? All right, so let's go to now we're going to do the finishing on it. Okay, so let's hit Alt T to get rid of those tool paths. We don't have to look at them. Alt T. And I don't have, it's not working on VMware probably. Oh, there it was. I had to click in the right window. All right, so Alt T, so the tulips, we don't have to look at them. Let's do the next one. So we're going to right click over here again, and we're going to go hover over the mill, go down here to, I think it's surface finish, and we want flow line, finish flow line, okay? Okay, so now once you again touch all the surfaces just like we did last time, make sure you get the little one again. Okay, this time we don't have to do any containment, okay, because it's going to contain it itself. So hit enter, but we do need to check our flow line because it's usually wrong. Okay, so where it says flow line there, hit the little button, okay, and you can see it's going left or right, which is not the fastest way. Okay, we want it going along the length of the guitar. So hit cut direction button, okay. I'm going to read this to make sure I did it right. Check the flow line. I have to pick it to make sure it's going to line. We use the same thing. Yeah, so the cut direction, I should put that note in there. So switch to cut direction, okay? And then hit the check mark, okay? And hit the check mark again, okay? And we'll make the same settings all over again here. There's a few less of them. Same tool, change the speeds. I think it says we want a 20 on the feed rate. So change the feed rate to 20. RPM to 2000. Plunge rate to 6. Okay. That's all good. It's got the right tool. Turn your coolant on. Very important. The brake bits if you're running it, check mark. Surface parameters. Make sure they're all the same. They are. They're all good. Flow line, finished flow line parameters. Okay, on this one we need to change the step over control. Step over control is set up to scallop height. Let's switch it over to a distance of 0.05 instead of 0.1. Okay, so this is in the flow line parameters. I think that's it. Hit the check mark. Okay, should generate here in a minute. Okay, we got the tool line turned off, so I'm gonna turn back on Alt T. Okay, now you can see all the new ones in there. Okay, let's go ahead and check it with visual. So if you want to go over and do your verify. Okay, I'm going to leave it about half speed. And run it and see if it looks right. See if it's doing the rough. Okay, it looks really good actually. Looks like I didn't select both of them, so I'm going to close that out, go back over here, select all the operations, and try again. Should do them both right. Make sure they're 100% correct and the tool looks like it's going in the right direction. Yeah, that looks more like it. So this is the rough one. And then it does the finished one. Looks really good. Okay, could have switched colors to see what it missed, but it did a nice job on it. So, okay, so if you have the color loop hit, it actually has a little bit of overlap, but that's okay. It doesn't have much. You'll see a little bit of it in here. Okay, for this mold, it'll be just fine. Because I put down the 0 on the rough. That's kind of why I did that. Okay. Okay, so we've got that done. Okay, the last step is you got to generate an NC file and change these numbers in there. Okay, I didn't really give you a part number, so just pick one. Okay, it's got your initials on it anyway. So let's go create a G code. So hit the G code button. This is very important. You need to select the post, okay, because it's using the wrong post. So hit select post. Hit your selected post. Yep. Pick your FANUC post that we saved in there a minute ago. Hit open. Okay. Override, let's see here. So enter the, that's the extension. All right, so after you get all that right post in there, hit the check mark. Okay, make sure you save it as, so the last 2 digits on the number. So it needs to be saved as, edit the file name to be the last 2 digits of the file number. So it'd be a 0, okay? I'm not 0, an O, sorry, an O. And then whatever part, then 00, okay? And then your part number that you're gonna pick, I'm gonna pick 12, okay? And then down here, I'm gonna have to make sure it's at 12 in there for it to run correctly, okay? So I'm gonna hit save there, make sure it's saving, make sure it's saving to your U drive because it's not, okay? Make sure it's saving to the place you want it to be, okay? And hit save, and then it'll open it up. And once it opens up, modify this, and then upload all those files, and you are done. Okay, I'll get started on modifying those here real quick. So once it opens up, it says modify those lines. So the first one is percent, that's right. The next one, so this needs to be switched over to 00, or I mean 12. Okay, on mine, or whatever number you use. And it's like I skipped that name. Your name here should be on the next one, right? So down here in the brackets somewhere, put your name. Okay, so I'll put a bracket. And my name. That. And then the date. Of course, put the correct date in there. So it did the correct date anyway, so that's all good. Don't need to change any of that. All right, so save that file and turn it in. And that is it.